next to them, raise your hand. So, see the hands out, there's empty seats. You can sit on those tables over there too, they're pretty sturdy. So welcome to the Hive. My name is Carolyn Ringo, and I'm a host here at the Hive, and it's a pretty exciting place to be these days. Over here you'll see a list of the classes that we have coming up, and Elaine's going to talk more about it, but there's a lot of, this place is changing the face of Paonia, and we're really glad that you're all here to participate, so thanks for coming.
Hi everybody. My name is Elaine Brett, and I'm going to be the moderator, facilitator for tonight. And we have a packed house and a long list of people who are going to be presenting. So we're going to try and move it along, and hopefully, well, people coming in. I guess this is a topic that people are interested in. I'll introduce our presenters, but a few logistical things first. This is the colony room of the Hive, and we do have an upstairs and a downstairs. And when you pass the stairway coming in, the bathrooms are downstairs. Very important point. So facilities are downstairs, and feel free to look at this great space and feel free to ask the Hive host and our Queen Joanne Calabrese, who is managing this enterprise, and she's also going to be our timekeeper here tonight. So the format, because we have a lot here, a lot to do, and a lot of people who want to share what's going on and what's in the crystal ball for the future, particularly our North Fork Valley. We're very mindful and cognizant that what we do here in the North Fork Valley affects the rest of the county, and however, because this group is mostly North Fork, I think we're probably going to be pretty much talking about things happening up here. And would love for some of this to run off and with our friends in Service Creek and Delta, and we have some representation here tonight from people representing the region, and they'll be speaking about the region as well. So the format's going to be kind of rapid fire. We're going to give each of our presenters about 10 minutes to talk, and they're going to be timed, and they get the hook. Get the hook at 10 minutes. So we've asked them to have like 3 points, or a couple of the key highlights of what they see in their particular industry or their particular area as happening or going to happen, and then we would ask that that information informs you, and we'll have some time at the end to kind of put it all together and to have some conversation. I want to ask for a couple of volunteers, somebody who is a good listener and has pretty decent handwriting. What I want to do is to make it visible.
I'm going to keep taking notes of my notes.
You got your own notes, yeah. But I'd like to make it visible, and as the presenters are talking, Michelle, and your name is? Ian. Ian. Okay, would you like to help us with Ian? Would you like to help us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So one of the people would like on this side of the room. We'll turn the slides off. And as you hear things being said that kind of nail what's happening today, what's going on in Paonia, the North Fork Valley, Delta County today, write it down up there. And this is going to be a visual capture of what is being said, so that we can refer to that in our conversation at the end. And another person I'd like to be over here, and as people are talking, when they hear something about, well, in 5 years, the mines are going to look like this, or, in a couple of years, solar energy is going to be doing this, you write that down, capture it, put it down, so we have a reference of where we think we're going, and where we may be in the future. So we'll have that visually going on while people are talking, so we'll capture that. At the end of the night, what I'd like you all to think about is how we get from here to here. And any brilliant ideas and wonderful insights would be greatly appreciated. And we'll have a conversation about how we as a community can make the future happen. Okay? Does that sound reasonable? We're moving toward a thriving economy, right? That's what they told me. I also would like to welcome you to the Hive. I am a host here as well, and I've been really embedded in here since Kris was developing the concept. And I see this operation as part of the new economy of our West. And it's here for our valley, it's here for our county, and what it is really a collaborative engine. It's people coming to work, people exchanging, people helping each other, people seeing opportunity in exchanging their businesses, and a collaborative engine to help us think of new ways to meet the needs of this community. So it's a pretty cool thing. That's kind of a big concept, but I got to tell you, in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, it's been happening here, and we've been having people dropping in saying, "I've got an idea. Who can help me?" And 3 people jump on, and next thing you know, they got a website, they got a business plan, and they're buying land and way. So it is happening. It's pretty darn exciting. I also see the Hive here as a chapter in a new narrative about rural communities and small towns. And there's some interesting work being done that I've been learning about the rural narrative and the new rural narrative. And the old narrative says that small towns and rural areas are dying and doomed. The new narrative says small towns are desirable and they've got a lot of potential. And in fact, what the statistics are showing are that people are moving into small towns and they're setting up their businesses, and it's happening. It's happening in Minnesota, it's happening in the Midwest, and it's happening here in Colorado. The old narrative says that there's a brain drain. All of our kids are leaving. The 20-year-olds are going, the kids are graduating, they leave town. That's true. Statistically, demographically, it's true. The new narrative says there's a brain gain. And what we're seeing are 30 to 40-year-olds who are looking for something else, and they're coming to small towns and rural areas. And we're seeing boomers, the 60-year-olds, are coming to rural areas for a different lifestyle. The old narrative is that the traditional industries are losing ground. And we see it here in our county, in the extraction industries and in the agriculture. People talk about losing ground, talk about what we're losing there. In the new narrative, it says that entrepreneurs, tech professionals, telecommuters are creating their own opportunities. The old narrative says the population is getting older and requires more resources. The new narrative says the older population brings opportunity for growth of new jobs in new industries. And finally, the old narrative says growth and wealth is driven by jobs. And I think my generation has grown up with that and it's embedded. The new narrative says that the growth and the wealth of an area is driven by quality of life. So that's just a little prelude to kind of give context. And what I'd like to do next is just kind of go down the line, tell you who's at the front of the room and who's going to be speaking tonight. And then we'll figure out who's going to be first. So let me just go from this side to that side. We have Kris Garre. Kris is the new executive director of the Creative Coalition and is overseeing our creative district and the creative arts organizations of the North Fork Valley.
How do you spell Garre?
Garre. And is an artist, a musician, and also a nonprofit guy, involved in various nonprofits. Sarah Sauter is here from the Conservation Center, and she is going to talk about water and other things here in the North Fork Valley. Sutton and Kristen O'Brien, I'm going to say Brown for some reason. Kristen O'Brien are here from SEI and talking about what SEI is doing and energy, the alternative energy side of things. Emily Hartnett is representing the Valley Organic Growers Association. Trish Thibodo is from Delta County Economic Development, and she's representing the county economic development efforts. Bob Lario is a local realtor and is going to talk about real estate and trends in this area. Breath. Diane Tourney, like just talked about. Diane Tourney is a business consultant and accountant, and she's going to talk about small businesses and opportunities in this area. Neal Schweiterman, of course, is our fine mayor of Paonia, and is going to talk about town stuff, I assume. Alexis Halbert is with the Chamber of Commerce and is going to talk about tourism and planning. John Gavan is here to talk about broadband and what's happening with that for the county and for the valley. And last but not least, Mike Ludlow. Mike Ludlow is the president of Oxbow Mining, and he's going to talk about phones and what's going on and what's in our future. So this is the. All right. We're gonna kind of popcorn this out, and I'm gonna see how it flows. Oh, Kristen's. He's not in the front row. Did he say hi?
I'm over here. I was opening the door.
Chris has described himself as a serial entrepreneur, and he just can't help himself. This is part of his creation here. And he'll be talking about the Hive and other things up and coming from an entrepreneurial point of view. So, with that wonderful list here, I think I'll leave it up to you guys. Does anybody have a burning desire to be first? Schweiterman, 10 minutes.
I figured I should go first because the town provides water, sewer, trash. That's not very glamorous. But what's really important that the town does is try to impart a better quality of life for our citizens. And the only really direct thing that we've done with that, in that regard, is Zach Mann really pushed and got the gazebo built at our town park, which we all know how that gets used with the concerts. The Beamers use it. It's a very utilized thing. But we've had a whole lot of volunteer groups come up with some great ideas and do different things. Let's see, our great new library. Not new anymore, but it took a great idea from the town hall, which came from Ron Rao. Let's give them the property, put it on, and open a library. Great idea. And it facilitated that library in the location. Let's see, Rotary had their centennial, and the bishops were running the Rotary at the time, and they redid our pocket park right here on Grand Avenue. Beautiful, a real asset for our town. A bunch of parents from the Montessori school wanted better playground equipment at the park. They got together, talked to the town. We said, yes, let's see, how can we do it? And Barb at Town Hall took it upon herself to get some grants, use a lot of their volunteer labor. We have a new playground, which the kids love. And last but not, well, not least, it's not last, but the tennis courts over in Apple Valley. And then we're still trying to finish up the rest of that project. And that's a partnership with the Pool Park and Rec District. And Barb at Town Hall, again, did a great job in facilitating that and getting a really nice project for a very little sum of money from our town. So those are all like volunteer things. And what the town said was, yes, or if not yes, maybe, or how can we do this? So it's yes or maybe and how can we do this? It sort of is the way we approach those things and try to make things work. But when you look at town stuff, the real boost for all these kinds of projects actually comes from jobs and from the businesses that have the jobs. And that's the real impetus. So what the town can do, when Chaco came and wanted to build their new building, it took a while, but there was a water tap. And this wasn't a town thing, but they got a water tap, built the building, ultimately blossomed 127 jobs in this valley. That was a big deal. SEI came here, did their stuff, wanted to expand a water tap from the town. We didn't break any rules to do this, but we said yes, or maybe, let's see, how do we do this? How do we make this happen? They get the water tap, things are going gangbusters. SEI does a wonderful asset to this valley. Lots of people come in here, lots of people know where Paonia, Colorado is all around the world because of that. 133 needed a water tap. The town said yes, and oh, by the way, we probably want water out there, so we worked with them to, when they put in their water line, they paid for the basic price to get their water line to their property and to their building. We paid for the upsize, and it's run all the way to the end of their property for future growth. So you say yes or maybe, or how do we do this, and plan for your future while you do that. So some future projects, poultry hydrated food. Kris over here came to talk to the town. We move fast. We say, hey, what are your ideas? How can we help? We've talked, where that project ends up, we don't know yet, but how do we help? The answer is yes or maybe, or how do we help? We have some coffee roasters coming into town, looking to do business here. Yes, maybe. Where do you want to be? How do we help? Do we have the water, the power you need, all that kind of stuff? So, and I'm well under my, I'm still doing great. So, I did that fast so we could keep moving. So, the town wants to be fair. We want to be upfront. We want to follow our rules. But we also want to be helpful. And most of all, we want to be friendly. And if we do those things, I think from the town's perspective, we're doing what we can to help move the town and the town as a part of this whole valley forward into future economy.
Under time. Wow. Did anybody do that? Yeah. Okay. No, you don't get extra time.
Could you write that bigger?
What would you like me to write?
Bigger!
Library,
Playground, tennis courts.
Yes, ma'am.
new businesses, things like that.
That's the big, on the 2B side.
Okay. Alexis, go.
So again, my name's Alexis Halbert, and I have been the president of the Paonia Chamber of Commerce for the last few years, and also helped with the Heart and Soul Project over the last number of years in Brook Valley. And I'm just going to say a couple words on tourism and planning. So what's working right now in our economy? Well, we have some incredible assets, and we have some incredible entrepreneurs, and we have some incredible people who live here and put their heart and everything that they have into the business and what it is that they love and what it is they want to do in their life and in the world. We have incredible natural beauty. We have so many physical assets. We have our farms. We have our hunting resources. We have our restaurants. We have our wineries. All these people who are creating things out of the natural assets that we have here in the valley. We have our organizational assets and we have business assets. In terms of organizational assets, we have, again, SEI has been mentioned, organizations like SEI that are bringing in people to study. Just sort of on the back of the napkin type numbers, we estimate SEI brings in at least $500,000 in terms of tourism dollars that their students are spending here in the valley. You also have organizations like, and that's just, that's a real back of the napkin type number. You have organizations like High Country News or the farm internship programs, that there's different organizations here that are bringing people not just for a weekend tourism type experience, but more of an actual life, lived, work, stay experience. We also have businesses with really broad reach around the state and around the country. And there are so many of them. I've just put a couple logos and a couple things up here on the board. You have delicious orchards and Big's juices that are being shipped around the country. You have someone like Jack Rabbit Hill Winery, Peak Spirits, who are now sending their alcohols to Europe. You have a lot of our farmers who are going to local markets in Denver, Telluride, Aspen, who are bringing our product. They're bringing our brand. So we're also getting brand recognition from our businesses outside of the valley here. And then we have our wonderful shining star businesses like Miss Videographer and Fresh and Wild, where we've gotten some real national media recognition. Just most recently, USA Today named Fresh and Wild one of the top 10 places to dine down in We also worked with the writers from Colorado Life magazine last year. They called Paonia Colorado's farm-to-table capital. So this is press that we can really make use of and that really goes far. Next slide, please. In terms of planning and development, there are a lot of initiatives that are happening. And I'm going to just mention the two that I've been a part of and know better. We have other panelists here tonight who can talk a little bit about their work, whether it's DCED has worked on the soil health program, which I think has a lot to do with long-term sustainable planning and farming, or DMEA and broadband. The two processes that we went through, and one is still ongoing. The first is the Heart and Soul Project, which was a $250,000 3-year community planning process that was funded by the Orton Family Foundation based out of Vermont. And that was a community-wide process to determine what it is we really wanted, how we wanted to grow, what we wanted to see in the future, and that was based on identifying what really matters most to us about the future. Who are we? And as Elaine had mentioned briefly in the introduction, a lot of what we're seeing in trends in rural development are, that quality of life. What makes us unique? What gives us a quality of life that will allow us to grow in a way that is totally different? One of the trends that we're also seeing is that small towns are being swallowed, often by growth of larger cities, or small towns are losing that critical population capacity in order to keep and grow jobs. Heart and Soul was an opportunity for us to try to take that information about what made us unique and actually create a plan around it. That process was successful because we had partnership with the town of Paonia. In processes like this with planning, the larger organizations, like the towns, like DMEA, like DCED, who is our fiscal sponsor, are critical to success from the outside. That kind of collaboration was very important, and I think that both these projects have laid some new groundwork for the kind of collaboration that's going to drive us moving forward. The other big piece, which is ongoing and has really, it's just starting, is the formation of the State Creative District. This is an incredibly powerful and wonderful, potent opportunity for us to take advantage of here in the North Fork Valley. We've been recognized for our wealth of artists, writers, entrepreneurs, and in particular our heritage crafts and our agriculture. Again, those special, unique things that make living in this North Fork Valley so unique and so beautiful. And Kris will talk a little bit about the Creative Coalition. But again, it's an opportunity for us to take a look at where we want to go in the future. What kind of planning do we want to be doing? Where do we want to go? And I think that this is always, or since I've lived here the last 5 years, it's been a very interesting dynamic, which is there's always this balance between one of the heart and soul values ended up being freedom, freedom, independence, and personal responsibility, which is that everyone here loves the free lifestyle. They love the ability to do what they want to do. But there's also personal responsibility that we have to ourselves and to each other in community. And part of that personal responsibility, I believe, is actually taking a look at how it is we can plan for our future, plan for an abundant future. Next slide, please. So this last slide, what are we doing towards a thriving economy? And the first top picture, if you can see it, it's people completely letting go, letting loose, dancing, enjoying, celebrating. And this is part of the spectrum of the freedom and independence, right? Which is we all want to go about our daily life and celebrating. And actually this time of year used to be celebrated as a Roman holiday, thousands of years ago, called Saturnalia. And it was the one time of year where you could they would take the chains off the statues. You kind of take the chains off of life, and all your your roles that you play and all the organizations you might run and all the different things you could just let loose. You could let go of that structure for a day or a week or however long, you know, all the gift giving and things like that. But the balance with that kind of freedom is that structure actually is very helpful. And as my friend Carolyn Casey says, you know, our imaginations lay the tracks from reality train. When we create structure, we might actually get something done. Structure can really help us figure out what we're doing and where we're going. And so some of the things that we've been focusing on in the Chamber with the Creative District, with the Paradise Theater, with Heart and Soul, is how do we create the forms for the next stage of our economy and the next stage of our culture here in the North Fork Valley. Those forms are the templates that will give us the freedom to be who we are, will allow us to move forward. So one of the things, again, with the Chamber, we've been really trying to focus on how to build it organizationally. We still need a lot of help. It's made a lot of progress. We have opportunities for board openings coming up this next coming year, and we'd love to invite you if you have any interest in topics like tourism or planning, or collaboration here with the Hive. The Chamber's office is located up front. Please consider being a part of the Chamber board. We have our annual member meeting on December 15th, and it'll be here from 5:30 to 7:30, so if you're interested in finding out more, please join us.
Alexis, how about a little broadband? John Gavan, Mr. Broadband.
I am John Garre. Thank you. In my day job, I'm the tech guy for the Library District, and I hope you all have had the chance to use our screaming fast internet at the Paonia Library. In my off time, I'm on the board of SCI, DCED, and DMEA, so energy and broadband are my two bands. And what I wanted to talk about tonight is broadband, because I see broadband as the single most important thing that if we can fix in this county, it'll blow our economy just to the sky. And let me start by asking a couple questions. How many people here on the PMB read the Paonia message board routinely? Oh, it's got to be more than that. How many people saw today's posting by Ben and the 35 comments that came back, you know, generally showed that we're not happy with the service we have? Let me ask another question. As I talk, think about this, and we're going to ask at the very end what your numbers are. How many devices do you have in your home? Just think about it. There's a, you know, we're here in rural America, but in the cities there's a revolution going on. We have the old copper-based telephone networks that have been in the ground and on the poles for the last 100 years getting deprecated and ripped out and replaced with high-speed, what are called Internet Protocol-based networks. The technology of choice in the cities is now fiber optic cable to the house and to the business. And over that fiber cable, you can get all of your movies, all of your entertainment, your phone service, and your internet. And you're paying in the cities about $70 a month for that service. Here in rural America, we pay, you know, that $70 for the kind of speeds that Ben saw this morning, less than a megabit per second down and up. So, the issue that I worry about is why are we letting the cities, you know, progress with this great program when rural America is getting left behind? And the FCC is very concerned about this. So they're creating some new programs that are kind of interesting. One of which we have to keep our eyes on is called Connect America 2. Because what they don't want to see happen is the cities move to these high-speed networks and the rural areas get left behind with these old, outdated, copper-based telephone networks, which is how you get your internet today if you have TDS. So there's a lot of activities underway that we're hoping will start to address this issue. And I can say it's not going to be an overnight fix, but things are moving in the right direction. The first is the Region 10 organization, which is a Council of Governments organization based out of Montrose, and tonight we have Vince Fandel from Region 10 here, so you know, Region 10 is doing some great work. Some of the best work I think they've ever done is they've engaged, or they've secured a grant from the Department of Local Affairs to build a broadband implementation plan for the 6 counties and 22 towns of Region 10. Paonia had the wisdom to step up and say, we're going to participate in that program, and contributed money, and thank you, Neal, for doing that. So Region 10 hired a consultant, a company called Neal from Carbondale, Colorado, and they are working hard on building this region-wide plan. And I'm happy to say I saw some of their work product last week, and they have a high-level plan for Paonia of how we will build a fiber network to interconnect the community anchor institutions in town, such as Town Hall, the Library District, the School District, you know, the ambulance barn, the firehouse, the, what have I missed? A few other things.
Police.
And by the first quarter of next year, we hope to have this plan together. And the anticipation is the next step will be to take those implementation plans and go out and look for some grant funding. Because we're getting signals from the Department of Local Affairs that they want to look seriously at funding broadband construction projects. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's going on is DMEA is in the process of building a fiber optic middle mile network that will connect the head end down in Montrose with all of the substations around our towns. Now the current plan of record is, and what the board has agreed to, is to make excess capacity in that network available as a dark fiber lease to telecom companies that may want to use that facility to get cheap bandwidth into our rural towns and then provide the last mile services to get to your house and your business. My big concern is we don't know whether anyone will fill that vacuum. Will any one of the incumbent providers step in and build that last mile network to the house? We're going to have to wait and see. That's the big risk. So what have other communities done in the face of the same problem? They've taken kind of an interesting approach in many cases, and this is happening all over Colorado. They're taking the municipal approach, where they get the governments together and they fund the construction of broadband networks. You may have seen the press release. Montrose has announced that they are going to be a gigabit city, and they are going to build a fiber optic ring around the city of Montrose. They're one of 35 cities across the country that are in this planning stage. So it's going to be really important for us to have the foresight to look forward and do something similar. And I'm arguing now, a year ago if you talked to me, I would have said, yeah, DSL and cable and fixed wireless like Skybeam, yeah, it'll do the job. I'll tell you, I've been watching this industry change, and today I say the only real viable solution is what's called fiber to the home and fiber to the business. And fiber optic cable can give up to 1 gigabit service to every subscriber, every one of you out there, at a price point of about $100 a month. So that means all of your video, your Netflix, everything, over one pipe, one little tiny glass fiber. The question is, how do you build that network? And the cost estimate for rural Delta County is about $35 million. And that's assuming that DMEA builds the middle mile piece. So this is not going to be cheap. And how are other communities doing it? They're doing it, again, through a municipal approach. They're doing it through private enterprise. And they're also doing it, kind of interestingly, through a co-op approach, where much like DMEA was created back in the 1940s to bring rural power, rural electricity to all of our farms and homes, now there are co-ops that are forming to do the same thing, using the same model for broadband. Because the interesting thing is broadband is now considered the fourth utility. And the FCC is considering legislation to change the designation of broadband from an information service to a public utility. And folks, that is the single most important thing that can happen, because there's an issue called net neutrality that is so important to all of us. And when you go to the polls and vote, keep net neutrality in your mind, because you don't want to be in a situation in the future, 10 years from now, when you pick up your phone and you get a recording saying, you're a 10th person in line for dial tone. Without net neutrality, that can happen. So net-net, the good news story is Delta County Economic Development is very involved in working to advocate for all of the planning and customer and user support to help us drive all of these organizations in our counties to do the right thing and solve this problem. I'm not going to say we know what the exact solution is yet, but I think in the next Or the next 4 months, we'll probably have a much better. So now, quick question. Let's hear, how many devices do you have at home?
10.
Wow, good.
That work or they don't work?
Oh. Well, they're projecting that by 2016, 2020, the average household had 50 internet-connected devices. And I'll tell you, in the next 5 years, when you buy a washing machine, it's going to have a Wi-Fi connection built into it. So, you know, this is the future. Any questions? Great.
Down my house.
A washing machine wants to talk on the internet. That's for the robots.
One last thing. Here's a sign-up sheet. Delta County Economic Development, again, is going to be getting more involved in getting the word out about this issue. So if you want to get our information, sign up here. I have a 45-page presentation. I'd be happy to send you this issue. So let me know. I'll get it out to you.
Well, since John sort of gave the segue on to DCED, why don't we have Trish go ahead?
Well, so I'm Trish Thibodo, and I'm the director at Delta County Economic Development. And so, first off, know that DCED is what everyone calls us, is that we're a nonprofit. We're not part of government. We work in partnership throughout the county with private and public partnerships. So John took my whole spiel on broadband. So let me talk in general kind of about what we do. We are working to improve the economic base and resources for the entire county. So we do that by working individually with businesses, finding out ways to help them expand, grow, start up, figure out resources. We work collaboratively throughout the region and throughout the county, working with Region 10, Vince and Jay are here from Region 10. We really feel like the work has to be done collaboratively. We have to work throughout the region. We can't work in isolation, and we need to do that throughout the county too. And so working with the chambers in partnership with them. And then another part that we focus on is also one of our major industries being agriculture. And so what can we do to support ag, both small and large producers? So one of the things that we do that is coming up in January, we have a soil health conference. And that is really geared towards orchard producers, large producers, and it's the idea that we have to, our future depends on a healthy soil, and that is what's going to feed and grow the agricultural economy. And so bringing in national experts, but also tapping into the local experts throughout the county. So we'll have folks, actually, I think Jack Rabbit Hill is going to be on part of the panels, and producers throughout the region. So what are some of the things that we're doing? I had a list, and then as people talk, I was putting all these other ideas, and really, our number one focus right now is broadband. And so again, we're working with Region 10 on the grant. We're working on community education. We just organized, we had 70 people go to the last DMEA meeting, and many of you were there, to, as members, talk about why broadband is important. And we really feel it's the #1 economic issue. And I think as we talk about developing a diverse, robust, resilient economy, the creative class is a really important piece of that, and entrepreneurs. And we know that folks need access to affordable, reliable internet to do that, to do things like the Hive, which I think is an incredible thing for the county, and is a great example that I'm hoping we can figure out ways to replicate it and do something in Delta and do something in Cedar Ridge, because it's that energy, that collaboration, that learning from each other and sharing ideas and resources that are really important. Another thing that we're working on, again, through Region 10, in partnership with Region 10, because of the recent layoffs with the mines, we have gotten an economic development grant to look at how do we rebuild a resilient and dynamic, diverse economy. And so what we're doing right now is we'll be getting consultants who will be coming in, and again, we'll be reaching out to the community of working with the consultants of what are emerging clusters, emerging industries, what can we do here and now to really create a resilient economy. It may not be the highest paying jobs, but it's slow, it's steady, we keep going, and I think those are things that you found in the Orton study is that's what people want. They want to stay here. We know that quality of life is an important piece of what brings people here and keeps people here. And so whatever we can do in that way. I have notes everywhere. And I think in the other part is that we do have to be realistic about some of our challenges. Like, how do we, with an aging population, where does that fit into some of the emerging issues, and how do we use that for advantage? And how do we bring our young people back so that, in the region, Delta County has the lowest percentage of folks that have a bachelor's degree. So what can we do to bring people back in that way? We do have an aging population, as I mentioned. So those are the things that we're looking at. So as Dee said, think of us working countywide, working with individuals, working with organizations. Another thing that I do want to say where we have been successful is recently is there's a Rural Economic Development Initiative grant, and I would really encourage people, if you're looking at expanding your business, if you're bringing on new jobs, there's grant funding out there, and we can help you kind of navigate that. Delta County has been recognized across the state of being really successful at getting those grants. We have, I think, 5 active grantees right now. There's a couple others that are in the process of applying for that money. So again, if you're looking for resources, information, getting connected, give us a call. So there we go.
Thank you, Trish, and again, welcome to the community. So talking about economic development would not be fair without including our friends of the mines. And we've got Mike Ludlow here from Oxbow to give us an update and talk about what's happening. And you get your spiffy shirt on.
I do. That's the only shirt I have.
Thank you. I think everybody in the valley knows that the coal industry is extremely challenged right now. It's under the gun from environmental groups, government regulations, and an oversupply of coal in the United States and worldwide, and also cheap natural gas. And cheap natural gas is relative. We talk about cheap natural gas, it's about $4 a million BTU right now. And checking the recent prices into the Cherokee plant in Denver, who buys both natural gas and coal because of House Bill 1365, they're being forced to drop off coal, so they're burning both coal and gas until 2017. They're buying gas right now for about $5 a million. Last winter it was $7 a million. They're buying coal for $2.50 a million BTU. Coal is being delivered to Comanche down in Pueblo for about $1.60 a million BTU. Coal is cheaper. So it's relative. Who pays for it? Consumer pays for it. We pay for it. On the environmental side, probably the biggest adversaries right now to the coal industry is the Sierra Club and Wild Earth Guardians. And this was today. And I have about 25 copies of this if anybody wants them. But the headlines here, Sierra Club again spends $27 million fighting coal. Sees chance to finish off the industry. So their goal is no coal. None. Zero. And their objective is to reduce carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is linked to global warming, climate change. But carbon dioxide occurs in the atmosphere at about 400 parts per million, where water vapor is actually the biggest greenhouse gas that we have. Man has an effect on the environment. There is no doubt about it. The Earth has been warming for 10,000 years. But in the North Fork Valley here, we've got
2 operating mines. Oxbow has been inactive, not producing for 2 years now. And there's a lot of challenges still going forward. So the environmental groups are very active. They're good at what they do. Just recently, if you read, there was a court decision that vacated some of West Elk's leases. And that was based on the fact that the BLM leased it, they paid for the lease, they had it in their hand, and the court made the decision that the BLM and Forest Service didn't adequately address the impacts of the social cost of carbon. So he vacated the lease, even though it was already issued. So they're very effective at what they do, very effective. Other aspects, they challenge leasing, they challenge transportation, they have effectively blocked the expansion of export ports in Washington and Oregon, so it makes it extremely challenging. On the government regulation side, right now, the President's Clean Power Plan has put regulations on existing power plants and future power plants. Future power plants regulations came out about a year ago and said that any future plant must produce at less than 1,100 pounds of carbon dioxide per megawatt. Gas plants can do that, coal plants can't. Short story, everybody believes there will never be another coal-fired plant built as long as that regulation stays in effect. The Clean Power Plan for existing plants is under comment. Comment period closed, I think, December 1st, this week. That plan is supposed to be issued, those regulations, in June of 2015. The EPA says they're still going to meet that deadline, even though they extended the comment period. And those are going to require the power industry to reduce the overall emissions from the 2005 level by 30%, 2008 level by 30%.
2005.
2005? Okay, good, thank you. 2005 by 30%. And that's about a 20% drop over what 2012 was. And the only way that I can see doing that effectively is to close more coal-fired power plants. And most of the industry believes that if that rule stays in effect and goes through as it's been drafted, it'll cut back the industry in the U.S. by about another 20%. So the impact is being seen in the North Fork Valley. We had an event at Oxbow, but there is no market for our coal. That effect has gone on to Bowie. Bowie laid off 150 people because of the TVA contract that is no longer in effect for their sales. And they haven't picked up any more. West Elk is still doing reasonably well in shipping coal, but the costs are probably about the same as what the sales price is. So they're holding on, but I just don't think that they're making a whole lot of profit, if any, on their coal. So internationally, we see the same thing. Internationally, the markets are also challenged, but internationally, the consumption of coal is projected to increase. One of the articles I looked at this week said India will probably double their coal consumption and production by 2018. So they'll go from about 500 million to about 1 billion tons of production and consumption in the next, say, 4 years. China tied the U.S. in 2001 by producing and consuming 1 billion tons of coal per year. They're now at 3.8 billion and still growing. So right now, the world is projected to still increase the consumption of coal. It's a cheap fuel worldwide. It can be transported, and it can be burned clean with modern emission controls. When I look at our air this summer, I wasn't really pleased with our air quality here in the North Fork Valley. It was pretty hazy all summer. Forest fires. It wasn't the coal-burning plants. It's forest fires that the smoke comes through. You know, it isn't the clean-burning plants. You look at some of the clean plants, and you can't even see emissions coming out of the stack. What you do see is water vapor. They have bag houses on them, they've got scrubbers, and they do a tremendous job at burning the coal and burning it clean. So the government regulations are being challenged. There's lawsuits against the EPA saying the EPA doesn't have the authority to regulate existing plants or future plants under the Clean Air Act. However, a judge about a year ago, a Supreme Court judge, had ruled that the carbon dioxide is a pollutant that the EPA can regulate. So the coal industry is extremely challenged right now. And I wish I had a very, very optimistic picture to give you, but I really don't at this point. A lot of it's going to depend on the regulations, whether they go through as is, and whether or not the Sierra Club is successful at finishing off the industry. But coal is an energy source. We need energy. And there's no doubt that the human population has an effect on the earth. And what's really scary to me, if I think about it, say there's, I think about 7 billion people in the world right now. If that doubles in, say, 50 years, how are we going to feed all those people? Where's the food going to come from? Where's the clean water going to come from? Where's the energy going to come from? And if in another 50 years it doubles again, how is this earth going to support that kind of population? I don't think it's the carbon dioxide that we've got to worry about. Thank you.
Halfway through. Keep going, or do you want to stand up? Okay, keep going. Kris.
Oh, for SRO.
You.
I went down the hall. We lost about 30 people since we clearly need a bigger hive.
Too many workers.
What am I talking about?
Serial entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah. Local investing. It's not sure either. Let's see. Oh, look, a timer. This is very useful for me. I usually talk for days, not minutes. I'm a little overwhelmed. The Hive was an idea that we opened in spring just to see if it would work. Businesses like the yoga studio, Living Farm Cafe, even the Paradise Theater. That funding came from, in most cases, within 10 miles of here. So, when I talk about local investing, I don't think most people understand what that means. Think about it this way. Usually when you go to get a loan, if you're an entrepreneur and you're going to start a business, what do? You go to a bank, typically, right? Or the SBA, or you apply for a grant. And that money comes from where? Usually far away, even if it's a local bank.
Increase your volume a little bit, if you will.
I'll try. Yeah, I'll try not to.
You don't have to shout.
I don't know what the percentage is on funding for small businesses, but it's almost never local. And when you fund a project from your neighbors, think about the cycle of the dollars that happens. So, the Hive is an example. Somebody comes in and buys a Hive membership or rents a meeting. The money comes in here. Without explaining the salary that the queen bee makes, because we actually created a job, and without explaining how each person that makes this place work is compensated, think first about the payment to whoever holds the debt. Typically it's a bank. Sometimes those bank notes are securitized. They go off to Wall Street, and what does Wall Street do with that? They package it up. They call it, if it's a house, they call it mortgage-backed securities. They sell it back to your mutual fund inside your 401k. So if you have a retirement fund that's invested in all kinds of different securities that have different labels and names, what you're actually doing is, in part, funding your own loan and that of your neighbors. That's actually how it works. Guess how many people get paid by you? All the way back to here. Like when I put a stamp on a letter and I take it to the Paonia post office across the street, and then overnight someone drives it to Grand Junction, and then sorts it, and then it lands where? In the box right next to my box. That's the Paonia post office. And I paid, 43 cents for that one. I would have been happy to deliver it to the box myself if only there were a little slot in the box, but there isn't. Now, I'm not saying anything about the post office. This is how the financial system works too. So what happens if one person, your neighbor, let's say, is complaining one day about, gosh, I don't know what's happening in the stock markets. I have some money in a CD, but it's only paying like 0.00001%. And I heard inflation is 3, which means I'm actually paying 2.9999% to keep my money sitting there. And then this other person over here is saying, I can't get a loan to fund my house or my project. Hey, wait a minute. How about you fund the project? I'm oversimplifying this. There's something called the Securities Act of 1933, which prevents most people from doing that. Not because it's illegal to do that, but because they don't know how. And so I didn't come to Paonia thinking I was going to do any of this. I literally was done with my previous career. I thought I was going to work on a farm and exchange some food, and I was very happy about that. And it just so happened that I saw an empty building, and my wife wanted to teach yoga, and I thought, oh, I could probably do that. And I went, hey you, you want to fund this? Okay, I know how to do that. And poof, there it went. And then here came more. So I'm not telling everyone to run out and borrow money from each other because there are already 2 laws that we have to cover, and I cannot do it. But what we have been doing with the time we can is, and I'm really busy right now because everybody is now succeeding all of a sudden, and this is all working, and so I'm taking on as many projects as I can, not just myself, but to help other people do this, because I don't know about you guys, it's interesting. I talked to John Shallert, the chamber brought in. Who was at John Shallert's workshop? I wasn't able to be there, but John and I talked on the phone the week prior, and he wanted to interview me about my projects here in Paonia just to get a perspective, because he was interviewing a lot of locals. And at the end, he was laughing, and he said, do you know that your answers are almost the opposite of what everyone else said to me in the community, because I was the last one to talk to? I thought, how can that be? And he said, it's interesting that you're all looking at the same landscape, but you're seeing different things. And that speaks a lot to the culture, to what's been ingrained in the belief system there locally. And that one person could come in and look at the same picture and see it completely differently. That's not credit to me. I didn't actually do anything. We're just looking through a different lens, and because of my background in finance and securities and different things like that, I can see how things are possible that just aren't happening yet. And so I've been collaborating through the Hive, that people come in and they sign up for the Hive for a membership to work here occasionally, and we can't help ourselves, right? Somebody will say, hey, do you know anything about this? Somebody in the room says, sure I do, and then all of a sudden this crazy frenzy starts happening, and then all of a sudden, poof, this new business was launched, or this new job was created, or these things happened that previously were impossible. Maybe because of a budget restriction, or because resources weren't there, but because everybody showed up and started talking to each other for a common cause, which is community benefit, things are happening left and right. So, if I may, for example, there's so many people I can tell their stories. Kris, please raise your hand. That's Kris. How long have you been in town?
4 months, off and on, just moved in last month.
Okay, Kris just moved here, and he's been in town for 4 months, and he has a company that is going to bring a food dehydration center to the community. Not a small one, like industrial scale. It will employ at least how many people right out of the gate?
10 to 12.
Seasonally up to?
Up to 20 to 30.
Okay, first year.
Yeah.
Oh. Look at that. How are you getting funded?
Grassroots investments.
Look at that. I mean, people in the community want that to happen. And so what his concept is he has this state-of-the-art, huge dehydration machine where, let's see, is there any place locally where he can buy some organic fruit? So he did the math on how much fruit and vegetables are wasted in this valley because there's not enough labor, there's not enough money to invest in the infrastructure to get to it faster, to get it to the trucks or to processing or whatever it is. He can buy all of it. How many pounds of fresh produce can the facility produce or process in a day?
Maximum 15,000 pounds a day.
15,000 pounds in a day. You can buy more fruit than the valley can produce.
That's right. We'll have to import it because you don't grow enough here.
You don't grow enough food here. This is why John Schaller says that I'm looking at everything differently. You don't grow enough food here, but that's what we do here. Just tweak the model a little bit. The investors are local, right? Oh, okay, we have attorneys in the room, I see. Disclaimer. This is not an offer to sell securities. I'm not an attorney or a financial advisor or tax advisor. Please don't assume that I am. I have a whole list of these. I should have brought it to read, but that would take half my time. We're not selling anything. But the point is, we now have examples of multiple businesses. Does it really say 10 seconds left? Okay. We have coffee roasters from Carbondale coming. We have, I'm not going to do this. So we have like a room full of entrepreneurs that are ready to bring their businesses here because the North Fork Valley is awesome. The other half of the room is people that want to invest locally because they're tired of Wall Street and they would just like to know how. So Halbert and Paul and myself have been working on a little side hobby project where we legally pair people together, people with money, people that need money, and we're doing what we can for free because, at least in my case, I don't have a securities license that enables me to charge for this, so we just do it anyway. Imagine that. We pair the money with the need and then help people along and with the leverage of the Hive and the technology that we have with the systems from John Records and where's John Gavan? John Gavan. We've been able to upgrade what we can do in this valley because we have world-class experts here that are willing to help. So that's the story of the Hive, how it was born, and projects that are about to, I could go down the list right now of what's in our pipeline.
That we had a Hive host, we have what, 10, 12 hosts, and we had a meeting the other morning that's supposed to last an hour. We stayed for 2 hours because we were so excited about all the ideas we were generating and how we were going to make it happen.
It's important for how we're going to make it happen.
Yeah,
that's it. Keep going?
yeah.
Okay. Hard cut act to follow here. I wonder if I got Emily because
No, you can pick Emily, I'm ready to go.
Okay, go. Let's talk about all that food we got.
Hi, my name is Emily Hartnett, and I'm here representing VOGA, the Valley Organic Growers Association. Our organization is mostly comprised of sustainable organic agriculture. We don't represent really the big ag. We're more small, family farm, diversified farms. So what we have going on in the valley is the largest concentration of organic farms in the state is right here. So apparently we're still not growing enough food. But we have a pretty amazing situation here where grazing land is accessible and cheap. So cattle, sheep can be raised in large quantities in this area for the meat industry. Fruit and wine, we have an abundance of organic fruit and amazing wineries here. Gourmet vegetable producers, heirloom vegetables, and we also have organic flower producers here, people growing flowers. we have a very high demand for the agricultural products that our farms produce. Our problem will be distribution and delivery. So if we can get our products to the Front Range, to Telluride, Aspen, Crested Butte, then there's pretty much unlimited market. We found that there is a limited market within this community. Possibly now with the new fruit operation, we'll have less of a limited market. But in terms of meat and vegetables and a lot of the orchard growers, the food leaves. Thanks to people like Deva and Mike here, we do have venues for our produce to stay in the valley. And what we found is a lot of people in the valley do grow their own food, and so we send a lot of our stuff over the hill. So we also grow here a lot of hay and grain, which is pretty amazing to have all these different sectors of agriculture here. Somebody who's raising animals can get all their hay locally within 10 miles, all their grain within 10 miles. It's a very unique situation in terms of farming. It's really, the agriculture in terms of a viable economy is not going anywhere. There has been agriculture here historically, and it's not something that we can pick up and move operations to China. That's not going to work. So so we are here, we're here to stay, and it's something that we are, as farmers, looking, how can we expand and how can we move forward? People have to eat, people are going to continue eating, and so how can we continue to show up so that people have an abundance of food, and so that we can have more farmers coming here to create an economically viable option for people to move here and do something that they're really passionate about. We have affordable land here, which is pretty rare. Other areas of the state, ag land is not as cheap as it is here. So that's something that we have. And the other thing about having these small diversified farms is that it brings families here, and their families stay, and they're committed to the schools, and they're committed to other sectors of the community. And you see a lot of our VOGA members showing up in other boards and other nonprofits. It's farmers that really are invested to this place and to this location. So in the future, we could develop sectors of our agriculture through improving distribution and delivery by having ways that we can get our products out. Another thing that we're focusing on is, instead of distributing our produce, getting people to come here, getting the tourism industry, the agritourism, bed and breakfasts, farm stays, places like Davis at Fresh and Wild. It's so nice for people to come here, see a farm, have the food, have the experience. We're looking at workshops, having workshops, funding VOGA members to go to workshops like the Shower, creating our business as a destination, that people come here, and through camps and, other sort of ways to get people to come here and stay, like the internships, and to really keep our stuff here so then we don't have to send it out. And another thing that VOGA is involved in is protecting the valley's resources. Without land and without water in there, we don't have much of an option. Agriculture is fully dependent on clean water and clean land. So the VOGA organization has been doing a lot of work with the groups to come up with a plan for BLM to keep the fracking kind of out of our water systems so that we can keep the water clean and the air clean for the farms that have been here forever and will continue to be here. And we're setting up ways for tourists to come here and have an easier way to visit the farms. Through farm tours that are set up and advertised. We do a Know Your Farmer program in the evenings in the summer where people can go learn about their neighbors and about their farm. We also do an internship workshop program where interns on the farms can come and learn about other farms in the valley, gaining awareness for other ways that people do things. And we also have outreach. We do the kids, Mark is involved with the kids' pasta project where they grow tomatoes, so the kids get to see their tomatoes growing, make their pasta sauce, feed the community, and then see the full circle. And so through gaining awareness and through mapping out ways to get our products out, and by mapping ways to get people to come here, then we will continue to have a very vibrant and economically viable small agricultural aspect to this valley.
Did you know, and this is a little bit out of date, about 5 years, but of all the fruit in Colorado, 70% of the apples, 71% of all cherries, 53% of pears are grown in Delta County. Let's change it up a little bit. How about a little solar energy?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kris Sutton. I'm part of the staff at Solar Energy International. I know that, talking to people around the community, there's a lot of people who are very familiar with us and know what we do, and to others, we're at the place out on Matthews Lane. And so, so a couple things I want to just kind of hit on, a little bit of background, and then kind of how we play, our market with the local market piece. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit educational organization. We don't really act, I guess, like a lot of other nonprofits. We really kind of work more like a business. We're not like granted or bankrolled by anyone. We get grants, yes, but most of our revenue is generated through our own training programs, through our materials we produce, our curriculum, our online courses, our traveling courses, our consulting services, our textbooks, things like that. So we really earn most of our own revenue. Our mission statement from SEI is that we, as an educational nonprofit, our mission is to provide industry-leading technical training with expertise in renewable energy to power people, communities, and businesses worldwide. That's our mission. We want to help get renewable technology into the hands of other people. So we don't sell panels, we don't sell installations, we sell know-how, and we help that know-how. So engineering firms, construction companies, utilities, roofing firms, whatever, can better utilize and implement power systems. So that's our ultimate goal here. As an organization, we started in '91, and we've so far trained 35,000 people throughout the world. So that's our So the way we do that from here is we have a very robust online training program, and online is a major piece of what we offer. And so what we're doing is we're creating content, working with industry, and we're trying to be that middle ground between the solar industry and the global world, where we can kind of work with our friends in the industry and blast content out to the planet. Brings up broadband. Right? And so, that's a major piece, and one of the things that's a limiter sometimes to our business activities. I often joke when people ask about it, since I'll plug the broadband thing. One of our, and this is a very true statement, we shoot a lot of videos that we then blast out to our web services, and we can't get them out the door. Literally they're too big, even single files, to upload. It times out, it doesn't work. So the way we get videos out is we put them on a hard drive and then next day them with UPS or FedEx out to our server companies. And then they take them and then download them into the server banks, and then we run, we can't host data locally or any of that. So those are business limiters that I'll plug for the broadband issue. So that's kind of a big piece, is our online piece. Right now, annually, we train about 3,500 students a year are part of our paid student body through our online programs. Of the 3,500 a year, we get about 500 a year who come here to Paonia. So a lot of people are like, oh, so classes are over, what do you do all winter? It's like, well, actually what we do is we train the other, 3,000 people in our student body. So we have year-long classes going through our online program. So that's kind of our, our big pieces. We do online, we do in-person traveling classes that we go all over the world and do, and then we do hands-on labs at our lab facility here in Paonia. So that's kind of our pieces. Of that, of course, we've been doing everything in English for a long time, but we also have a very robust, very fast-growing Spanish training program. Due to a couple people in this room, Matthew Harris is one that's leading up our Spanish program, along with Danielle Gonzalez, that many of you probably know as a local. So Danielle and Matthew are running this program. One of the exciting things that just happened with them recently is we taught a class down in Chile that we orchestrated, and the president of Chile came to meet the class. It's the first time we've had a city president lead, a workshop group. So quite exciting. We also are doing a bunch in the Middle East. We've been doing a bit in Kuwait and Dubai, and probably Egypt coming up here really soon. So that's kind of, part of, as these markets grow, we work well in new market development regions. So we help kind of kickstart new market growth. So a couple other things here. So from a marketing standpoint, we came to a place a while back where we said, we have a really tough question. Can we grow as a business and be in Paonia? And that became a big question to us. And of course, we had a bunch of meetings about this that led to, do we have to move the business to Denver or somewhere else in order to stay functional? And the answer ultimately was, no, let's move to Denver. The real goal is to stay here and do what we're doing here and keep that as a big part of, it's like, all right, so we want to stay here. How do we grow? How do we use online services and that to grow? And so what that came to is we got to sell this place because we got to get people to want to come here, right? So we got to really leverage this place and the things that this place offers. So we really started cranking up a lot of marketing to how do you get people to come here and want to come here. Over the history of SEI, we've had people from every state in the country, and we've had people from over 120 countries come and take classes from us. It's really interesting when you get someone who shows up in Paonia and they're from somewhere off in the world, and the question comes up, have you ever been to the United States before? And often, very regularly, I get no. This is actually, imagine this, you land in Junction. There's no buses, there's no taxis, right? You didn't plan very well, and now you've got to get yourself to Paonia, right? So we have a lot of students who've shown up here and have never been to the U.S. 1 week, 2 weeks, sometimes 5 weeks in Paonia is their America experience. All right. In our mind, it's like, wow. So that's kind of what we do. So we leverage the marketing side. Why to come to Paonia? So we have to push that through website, social media, that sort of stuff. So our big social media excitement on Sunday, SEI's Facebook page had 100,000 likes. And then 2 days ago, yesterday, we launched a brand new website. Brand new website is huge, it's gorgeous, it's totally redone. The thing that was up here earlier just makes me want to cry to see our little website that went up on the screen earlier, because the new website's awesome. And check it out if you get a chance. solarenergy.org, and look to if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see all these great images of why to come to Paonia, things to do when you're here, all that sort of stuff. So we're trying to really leverage that. Yeah, so we've got about 500 people to Paonia a year. We employ 10 people here. We have about 20 full-time staff globally, and about 40 instructors that teach for us. So that's kind of our big ones over. I think that's kind of the most of the big stuff. What we really want to do in the future is continue to grow here. We want to be able to do global work from this location, grow that. We want to build a classroom building. We continue to expand our facility here, so we're going to do a program soon to expand our classroom facility, build some indoor lab training spaces, and things like that. We need better broadband to help do all that stuff. So that's kind of the big piece. And then a couple other little things is textbook that we produce, cover shots Paonia, cover shots Paonia. I put a whole bunch of these up front outside, and outside, if you grab one of these, we have a 2-page spread on why to come to Paonia as a solar training vacation destination. I want to introduce Kristen O'Brien to talk quickly about a program that's happening here for our Delta County program.
Maybe I can borrow the extra 5 minutes that Neal gave me. Yeah. So my name's Kristen O'Brien, and I'm an AmeriCorps Vista at SEI. I came here in February to actually be a student and got to take 8 classes at SEI and work off the cost of them. It's an awesome program if you want to learn. They have word trade. But now I'm employed to figure out a way towards economic development through solar. And so the success of SEI is based on the hardworking people who make it happen every day, but it's also based on the climate of the industry. And in 2013, solar electricity accounted for 29% of new electricity generation. And with that industry growth comes job growth. 142,000 Americans are employed by the solar industry in the United States and is growing by 25,000 new workers every year. So while SEI has always been focused on the national and international solar market, the time is right for their impact to come back to our community. And to do this, they have secured 2 AmeriCorps Vista positions to work on economic development through solar this year. And the plan is to continue those positions for the next 3 years. So there'll be 6 people working on this project. Economic development can take a lot of different forms. I've spent the last 4 months trying to figure out what that can mean for our community. And I've done that by researching other communities that have looked at solar as a method for economic development. And one thing to note is that historically motivations for purchasing solar have been that it's a new technology, that there are environmental reasons and for energy independence, but what's really boosting the solar market these days is that solar has the ability to save people money. And so economic development through solar in our valley right now can mean saving people money. And so that's my challenge, is to figure out what are all the parts and pieces to put together to make solar save people money. And it's not an unachievable goal. A recent Bloomberg article notes that 16 states already benefit from cheaper cost of electricity through solar versus the cost of electricity through the utility, and predicts that by 2016, 36 states, including Colorado, will reach this price parity. So the plan locally then is to facilitate a market kickstart in the solar industry through a process known as Solarize. And Solarize aims to eliminate 3 major market barriers for people to purchase solar. The first is the high upfront cost of solar, and we aim to do that through a bulk purchasing program, which leverages SEI's awesome connections in the industry to get the best prices we can for the equipment. The second market barrier is complexity, and we are developing creative financial models in collaboration with regional economic development groups, local solar installers, and local investors to take the complexity out of contracting and financing a solar install here. The third market barrier is what they call customer inertia. And so the idea is to launch a community educational campaign to teach local people about the benefits of solar and how to go about getting solar, which will afford them the opportunity to make an educated decision about the investment. So opening up Delta County to the solar market is a stable investment that can save people money. And with a leading solar training facility here in Paonia is a realistic way of creating jobs in the future. So at this point, economic development means saving people money, but realistically, boosting the solar market in this area could open up the doors for a lot of different other avenues to economic development through solar thermal systems. When I'm talking about this program that we're going to launch too, I mean solar electric. So other markets, solar thermal systems, solar water pumping, solar gate controls, microhydro systems, and maybe even small manufacturing someday. So yeah, that's kind of the project that I'm working on. If anybody's in the room is interested in keeping in the loop about that, there's a sign-up sheet out on the table in the hallway. You can write your email address down, and I'll make sure to keep you guys in the loop.
You guys snuck that one in. Joanna. But it was interesting. Diana, you want to talk about small business? What's happening in small business?
Hi, I'm Diana Tourney, and I have my own kind of practice in Hotchkiss. And I'm one of those people that switch out of the room. I wear a lot of hats. I also work for Hotchkiss Tech College. And I'm sorry I don't have a really loud voice. I had a horse accident a few years ago, and they got to rebuild me up here and down in here, and my kids and my husband are quite glad. This is as loud as it goes. So I'm very sorry that this is it. And so, anyway, so I worked at the Tech College and I wrote a lot of grants for them. And then I get to the privilege of working with small businesses through the SBA and SBDC. And so some days I am not sure which hat I'm wearing, but I find that they all come together. And so when people ask me what is working, I think that change is working. I like change. And what we're going through in our community is change, right? The many things that are happening to us really minds change. We are seeing that our schools are changing. But I learned that change can be really good. It causes flexibility. My husband has moved me 24 times in the military, and so you learn about change pretty quickly. We're experiencing the need to look at our resources differently in our area. And so by having to look at change differently, we think outside the box. And that's what I've heard everyone say here. So what I'm seeing in the businesses that come to me, and I see between 200 and 300 people that are interested in business starts a year. What I am seeing is I see people that are open to change. They're willing to get the education to make that change possible. Because I'm finding that there are some people that they don't have all the skill sets. They don't have all the pieces. When they come in, they just have an idea, they have a passion, they have something that they want to go after. And so the people that I see that succeed are flexible, because plan A doesn't always work and plan B may not work. But they're prepared to keep going down the alphabet until they find something that works. And so if they are tenacious, they tend to succeed. I also see that they're willing to ask for help in the area of finance. And I'm glad to hear that we've heard, you know, there are various sources you can get it. You have a great source here in this room in Region 10. They invest very heavily in our communities in microloans, in a large part. Non-traditional loans. So if you go to Region 10, I'll tell you, Vince Vandell is somebody you really want to get to know if you're looking at growing your business. How many of you knew that the Hotchkiss First State Bank used to be the second largest SBA vendor in the state of Colorado for many years running? Right here in Hotchkiss, the second largest in the state. So it's looking at what you do well. They knew how to process loans, and people came from the eastern slope over here to get their SBA loans. You have a knowledge pool and a base of people here. I am amazed at the people that come into my office on an almost daily basis that have tremendous expertise in computers, they have expertise in ranching, farming, utilities, electric, financial industries. They bring contacts. That's what I see, is they have a contact. So if you want to succeed in business, I end up putting a lot of those people together as well to try and help them succeed. And so some of it, take the resources we have at the Tech College, go out and find what they have, find out what SEI has. And I think that if you have a forum such as you're having now at the Hive, where you have local training, when I taught at the college, one of the things that I learned was I had students that they literally had difficulty getting to class because we do not have a public transportation system. And we have a lot of kids that would like to maybe even go out there of all ages. I'm not just saying young kids. And we funded both of our boys to go to the tech college and work in drafting and design. They would have, one of them, never gotten into the school of mines if we hadn't done that. And how many parents are willing to pay for gas, round trip every day, because there is no bus going there? That's the kind of commitment you have to make in business. You have to be prepared to put skin in the game. When investors look at you, and that would be my next point, what do investors want? They want a winner, right? Do you want to invest in somebody that's going to lose your savings, the money that you have to work with? You expect a return. The people that are going to succeed are the people that they have some invested money in that. So what do you have to put in? Are you willing to mortgage your home? Are you willing to put some of your savings? It's more than just your time. The people that I see succeed in business are the people that they have put their own hard-earned money and savings into it. They put themselves on the line. Are you that passionate as an investor to give your money to somebody who can just walk away? Very few people want to give money to somebody who will walk away. They want somebody that they're going to do everything in their power to make it work because they're invested in that. And so I like the idea that you have to know how to do that. So what does the SBA or SBDC have to offer to you? Where are your tax dollars at work? That Small Business Administration realizes that people want to start business. Who do you think powers America in business? Is it General Electric, General Motors, the multinational corporations? If you think it is, you're wrong. It's the little mom and pops, the companies that are under 20. But that's what our country is built on. It's not built on the mega giants. It's built on the little guys, the people that are largely sitting in this room. And I learned that because I came from the Fortune 25 set. And I'm used to dealing with hundreds of billions of dollars a year in divisions that I would run. And I'm here to tell you, it's the little guys. That's who brings home our checks. That's what funds our economy. So if you want to start a business, the SBA has resources to help you. We like to help people make sure that this is the right step for you. Sometimes the best thing I can do for you is help you realize you're not quite ready to make that leap yet. Maybe you need to keep your day job. Maybe you need to keep a few more things and get it clear in your mind before you start that. Because business failure is painful. If anyone has gone through a business failure, it is awful. And so I consider it a community service if you come into my office and we work with you and we say, you need to work on these things or perhaps you want to wait a little. The choice is always yours. So you have consulting at your fingertips. You just have to put forth the time and the effort. You also have a community here. How many communities of our size have the number of banks that are in this area? Is it not amazing? I have been all over the place and I have never seen such a concentration of banks. That tells me one thing. What does it tell you? There's money here. And it isn't just, in big companies. We have people here. And so if that money can be used to help you start a business. At the Tech College, I'm working with about 20 students right now that are starting businesses. For anywhere between $500 to $1,500, those people can start a small business. If they're a hairdresser, they're doing different things. It sometimes isn't a big investment. If you are someone here that is prepared to help someone start, I really feel that one of the things we need is a forum that offers non-traditional financing to people so that you can bring your dream alive. And so if you have that resource, we need to get you together and bring it to the table so that people can start it. And the final thing, I think, is I start anything with the beginning, with the end in mind. Why did you do what you're doing? What do you want out of your business? What does it look like? Tonight we're coming together to explore and kind of listen to different people, but you're architecting things, really. You're architecting the future of our valley and our own futures, right? You're writing the history. and you're starting it now. What if you couldn't fail? All of you were children once upon a time. All of you started out as a baby. I know it, right? I'm not wrong. So if all of you were a baby, you didn't start out knowing how to walk, did you? Did anybody tell you you'd never be able to walk? What if you couldn't fail? You had that same tenacity as a baby. You would get up every time you fell down, and you'd try again. And if necessary, you'd try something else, and something else, and something else. So maybe we need to look at our kids. That one.
Just a little point on the 12th, I was going to be giving a workshop here at the Hive on affordable software tools for your business. We'll see her again here. Several years ago, a bunch of artists from this community decided they wanted to be more and do more and be more like business people. And so they formed a creative coalition. And that ended up getting a designation as a creative district. And not terribly long ago, Garre showed up to lead the way on the next steps for the creative district. And so let's hear a little bit about the creatives.
Thanks. I'm Garre. I'm the Executive Director of the Creative Coalition right now. And as Lynn said, the Creative Coalition formed 2 years ago out of the Vision 2020 conversations. And then in 2011, the Colorado legislature passed a bill creating the Creative Districts program under Colorado Creative Industries, which is also creative. So Colorado Creative Industries is functioning under the Office of Economic Development. So keep everything in that framework. It's not an arts district program specifically, it's creative industries. The goal of the program is attracting artists and creative entrepreneurs to a community, infusing new energy and innovation, which in turn will enhance the economic and civic capital of the community. So you can see even right from the get-go, it is about economic growth and investing in local communities. So if we're to achieve that kind of growth through creative industries, we need to fund a operation that can have an administrative infrastructure to facilitate that kind of thing. And we also need to be clear on exactly what creative industries are. So the state defined that in 2011, and they came up with this one line. The state of Colorado defines a creative enterprise, those functioning creative industries, as any company for which the primary value of its products or services is rooted in its emotional and aesthetic appeal to the customer. They value that at a $5 billion a year industry in the state of Colorado. So obviously that includes a lot more than galleries and theaters. That's worth keeping in mind because the funds that were provided to the Creative Coalition with the Creative District designation, which is for the entire North Fork Valley, Paonia, Hotchkiss, and Crawford, are there to establish the infrastructure to further that goal, right? So it's not money to provide grants specifically to artists, specifically to create a piece of art. Rather, it is money provided to an organization to have the organizational infrastructure to be able to allow creative industries to blossom. So in one paradigm, you have a painting is commissioned, right? So that's granting to an artist to create a specific thing. In another, you have the opening of an art supply store that employs 3 or 4 people, adds to the creative and economic vitality of an area. It's this second paradigm that the Creative District is interested in focusing energy on. That's the economic growth locally. Also, economic growth can come through creative arts and industries displayed to the world, right? So if you have a music festival, if you have a parade of homes even, if there's artwork in the homes, if you have a film festival, these kinds of things, if they're done in a certain way to attract people, those people come from far away, possibly from out of the state. So then you're serving the need of the Office of Economic Development of the state of Colorado. People want to go to Telluride, to go to a music festival, all the way from New York, maybe even from Europe, right? So that's an effective use of channeling that energy into creative industries. So there are 6 subgroups officially by the state's designation for creative industries. They are design, that includes all sorts of graphical work, also architectural work, etc. Film and media, self-explanatory. Heritage, which is Colorado's historical sites, museums, and botanical gardens. Literary and publishing, including everything from the writer to the publishing house and onward, bookstore. Right? Performing arts, that's the actors and musicians as well as the places that those folks perform. Visual arts and crafts, which is the one that's most commonly associated with creative, that's paintings, drawings, etc. But a 7th grouping was allowed in our application, and that's for value-added agriculture. So there are 12 districts throughout the state of Colorado, and ours is a little different in that we have this value-added agriculture. Value-added agriculture being taking a raw agricultural product and turning it into refined products, such as taking apples and turning them into apple juice, right? And then shipping that apple juice out. So this is a particular focus to us in the North Fork Valley, and it's a particular interest to the state that we do something with that, and I think that is to our advantage. Taking a workforce and employing them in a new business that picks up surplus agricultural goods, dehydrates them and ships them out is an excellent example of value-added agriculture, creative industry applied to the area. Right? Okay, so what do we get with the creative district designation? It wasn't very easy to get. A lot of people really busted to make that happen. Like I said, there's only 12 in the state right now, and they're all much more dense metropolitan areas than here. Right off the bat, we got $25,000 distributed over the course of 3 years to create that infrastructural organization, and that was matched by another $25,000 from the Veteran Family Foundation. So that $50,000 distributed over 3 years, of which we're halfway through right now, is to create that organization to allow for these industries to blossom in our area. So we're in the middle of that at the moment, and like I said, those aren't grant funds. The point is not to hand those over to individual artists to create individual pieces of artwork, but rather to help put in place the kinds of businesses that employ people and foster that kind of development in the creative world that attracts tourists to the area. We also have an opportunity to market and promote things that happen here, certainly throughout the state, and an extra push to get them out nationally. So if we have something, let's suppose there's a festival that happens here, we now have an opportunity to promote that festival out to the state through our network, through the Creative District program, and then have a better shot at getting national attention to it. Of course, just as John Shallett talked about in his talk for the Business Symposium, definitely helps if it's truly represented as being unique and different enough that you would fly from New York to come to that festival, for example. Of course, there are those CDOT signs on our welcome signs for the different towns. There's little signs all over the place that say Creative District. There's technical assistance provided to the founding group, of which, of course, I was not a part. We have an opportunity to get grant funding through, which is facilitated through the state, but it's from the Mile High Community Foundation. So that's access to loan funds to help some of these projects get started. And of course, there's the network of the other creative districts and sharing resources between us. Thus far, what we have done is work to create that organizational infrastructure, as well as collect the names and addresses of the different creative professionals in the area, compile them together into a directory, which I'm not bring up, but it's over there. And we've also worked with a follow-up to the Heart and Soul program, money provided by the Orton Family Foundation to install 3 sculptures, one at each of the libraries to commemorate the Pass the Mic program that gave me that gift. So this was a local program the radio station did to teach youngsters how to interview people and produce radio content. These sculptures commemorate that, and they are at the libraries. It's opening this Saturday for the one at 1 o'clock. And then we are able to, thus far, support some of the festivals and activities that are already happening here. Looking into the future, I am personally predisposed to thinking about what I call participatory tourism. So that's where you come to an area and you find the area in your off time, maybe your 2 weeks off that you have, and you take a program at SEI, and in the meantime you fall in love with the place. I think that that makes for better use of your tourism time, as well as a better investment in the local economy. The example I like to give is a friend of mine who came from came 4 Mountain Harvest Festivals before I lived here. From Omaha, he met me here, we went to the festival, and then 2 years later, he contributed $100 to the Kickstarter campaign for Paradise. Hasn't been here since, just came here that once, but he had such a nice time being here. He wanted to make sure that this place lived on in his mind as that secret retreat that he knows about, nobody else knows about. Except that he's telling everybody. So where we're at right now is we need the right ideas. We need seed ideas. We need folks to contact me, potentially serve on our board if that's your position, but really we need that genius that we can take that idea, a genius idea, and blow it up. I can help you find grant funds for it. I can help you promote it. And it may not be a business, right? If you've got a business idea, there's other people to talk to. But maybe I can help there as well. It might be a festival idea. It might be a way to bolster one of the existing festivals or an event.
We're in the home stretch, 2 to go. How's the oxygen level? Is it okay? Everybody doing all right? Deep breath. A couple more to go.
Communities that promote standard of living and economic health of a specific area. So, standard of living, quality of life, conservation center. Yeah, I think I can do that. In fact, one of the conservation center's motto is your insurance policy for quality of life in Delta County. So I'll ask you to just pause for a second and imagine somebody who's never been to the North Fork, never been to Paonia. Think of the words that you would use to describe this community. The place that you see, the community, the environment. Just think about that. And those are a lot of the things that the Conservation Center has been protecting in one way, shape, or form, different names, since 1977. How do we do this? Well, I would argue that we have 9 program areas, which is why I'm really excited to get a Vista to help me out. We work on areas from coal, natural gas, public lands, recycling, the Paonia River Park, river restoration, environmental monitoring, recreation, and environmental education. We believe in locally appropriate and science-based solutions that work for the larger community. So I'm just going to rattle off a couple of things that we do and how they relate to quality of life and some of the basic infrastructure that we have here. Recycling. Joanna and Sam have been a big part of our recycling committee. We're working with the county commissioners to try to make recycling more accessible to the valley. People move from cities or suburban areas and recycling's a no-brainer. But out here, there are a lot of barriers. For example, with Double J, the recycling truck gets, 4 miles to the gallon? Even if we had everybody in the valley sign up, they still might not be able to make that work economically. So how much do we value it as a community, and what are we willing to pay or to invest back to make recycling happen if we want? Environmental monitoring. I probably get up to 5 phone calls a year. I'm thinking about moving to the valley. What's the environment like? Do you have clean air? Do you have clean water? We've been monitoring the water every month since 2001, so I can say with a fact that, yeah, we do have pretty good water. And if you don't mind a little Giardia now and then, I would drink water out of the North Fork. Clean air. Citizens for Healthy Community has done an air monitoring program that's very much targeted on oil and gas. We did a baseline air monitoring program that has a different focus. We're looking at more of ozone and nitrous oxides and things that we have no baseline in Delta County. When they started to look at the methane rules, we didn't know if methane was higher or lower. People were arguing, well, we're not in violation of standards over here. Yeah, we have plenty of room to pollute. Well, we learned through our monitoring that during our inversions, our methane and our nitrous oxide levels, I think that's what it is, don't quote me on the radio, are as high as levels in Denver. So it's really important to kind of have that science-based understanding of where we are. In
reminds me of something that I learned from Dave Knudsen this spring in a training. And the more I sit at this panel and think about things, we spend so much time arguing about whose solution is better. And we don't step back and think about the problems. And what are your issues and what are your concerns? And we're not really that far apart. But when we start with the solutions, we start really far apart. So I didn't articulate that as well as Dave does, but that's something that's really stuck with me since that training this spring. River restoration. Under Enfria, we have re-engineered 7 diversions, restored over 11 miles of river channel, and removed a dam. Did anybody know that there was a river-wide dam on the North Fork? The old Chipeta Dam down below Hotchkiss? We helped remove that. We believe in win-win projects. I think I got all of the wins. Agriculture users get their full diversion right, minimize the disturbance to the river, safe fish passage up, safe boat passage down. Projects can be designed so that everybody can win. Coal mining. We have partnered with the West Elk Mine to create the CAP program, Conservation Assistance Program, which helped landowners put over 11,000 acres of land in the North Fork Valley into permanent conservation easement. So that's probably one of the accomplishments that I'm the most proud of. Paonia River Park, former in-stream gravel mine, now the only public developed access to the North Fork. Over 98% of the land bordering the North Fork is privately owned. So more than 9 times out of 10, you go to the river, and it's not at the river park, and it's not at the pleasure park, you're probably trespassing. So we partnered with the town of Paonia. We worked with the gravel company, and they donated 19 acres for us to turn into the river park. We've done numerous restoration projects and built the boat ramp. Hopefully I will get some really good news from GoCo in about 2 or 3 weeks. We put in applications for money to install educational signage, to build a boat ramp. I want wheelchairs and strollers to be able to access the Minnesota Creek kind of swim beach area. We want to hire local artists to work on that ramp so that it'll kind of have that same theme to the entryway arch and the viewing platform and the fish skeleton that were all designed by local artists. We are working to expand a trail system. We work with teachers. Last year we had 80% of Delta County 4th graders come to the river park for our conservation days. So that's not my timer yet, is it? Okay. We do a number of things. We do our float trip. We do our conservation days. And so I guess kind of starting first with what are we doing, and then kind of putting it in context. Countless studies have connected the value of public lands and a good environment with quality of life. And think of the quality of life, healthy environment, clean air, clean water, like Emily said, it's an investment. It's protecting, Alex, what are the words that you told me to say? Protecting your assets. Alex is looking at buying a house, and he's telling me all the right words to use here. 71% of the North Fork watershed is public land between the Forest Service and the BLM. So that's a lot of land that can be protected. 50th anniversary of the Wilderness Act. We do have a lot of wilderness areas in the community. Maybe there's more ahead. You all know that, if you don't know, I'm going to tell you now, rivers are near and dear to my heart. And I found the coolest statistic today. If the Colorado River was a company, it would rank number 155 in the 2011 Fortune 500, ahead of companies like General Mills, U.S. Airways, and Progressive Insurance. It'd be the 19th largest employer of the Fortune 500. At the Conservation Center, we're engaging in the state water plan to try to make sure that we protect our local water rights, make sure that we protect our local water uses, and plan for the future of water responsibly. The Gunnison River and North Fork are growing importance of the local economies. For example, floating on the Gunnison Gorge, Gunnison River through Escalante, and Gunnison River from Forks to Austin had a total economic impact of $1.6 million in 2012. If we get the boat ramp in Hotchkiss, everybody's fingers are crossed for good news in about 2 weeks. Delta County Commissioners in the Conservation Center are going to put in a boat ramp in Hotchkiss. We've applied twice. If we don't get it, we'll keep going for it. The last thing I want to say, and I think I can get this in my last minute, we all know that the North Fork, I'm going to try to I did mention the fact that the North Fork pretty much goes dry from Paonia to Hotchkiss every year. We all know that. We've accepted that. 98% of the water used in Delta County is for irrigation. And when I say that I believe that the North Fork can have water in it and can flow from Paonia to Hotchkiss, I mean that. And that can happen through out-of-the-box solutions. We can do that without curtailing any water use, by protecting existing and historic water rights. We just need to be smarter and more efficient with how we use our water. And I think that's really coming. It's moving. When the Paonia Canal Reservoir folks, or Paonia and then the Fire Mountain Canal, did you guys know that they shut the gates at the reservoir the day before our float trip? Joanna called Dixie and Trey and begged, and they opened the gates for the reservoir for us for a day so we could have our float trip. Otherwise, it would have been canceled. They get it. They really get that we're all in this together. And to quote the county commissioners, recreation is important to our existing economy. Just like in the past, water projects can be built to accommodate both agriculture and recreation. So I think that's the future of water, is multiple use, things that have environmental benefits, things that have recreation benefits, things that have ag benefits. So and in closing, the Conservation Center is going through a little bit of a strategic planning process. So if there are things that you want to be in the valley, give me a call, shoot me an email, talk to Sam, talk to Allison, talk to Alex, our newest board member. Give us a call and let us know what you want to happen, because this is a really exciting time for us, and we want to hear your input. So thank you, guys.
One of the dilemmas in this valley that we've discovered is that all of these wonderful things, if all people wanted to come here, it would be overrun, and it would take away from what we have. And it's a real concern from old timers and newcomers. The ones that people like me they've been here for 10 years. I'm 61 years old, and I will never be an old timer in this county. I know that. I accept it. But it's that balance. It's finding the balance. How do we keep it going, and how do we honor what has come before us? And so one of the dilemmas is, how do we put people in who want to be here, who see the possibilities and the potential. And we have Mr. Lario, who's been doing real estate here for some time and is going to talk about real estate trends and what's going on and where we're putting the people.
Thanks, Elaine. I'll never be an old timer either, and I've been here since 1970. So I need some help passing these out, and so if you guys could maybe take half for one side of the room, half for the other. They told me to bring some statistics, but they didn't tell me how many to bring, so I made 30 copies, which is probably woefully inadequate. So if you guys would kind of share, everybody kind of look over each other's shoulders at them. There's some really good information in there. It says a lot.
Okay.
And those of you who are really into statistics and graphs may want to hold on to some of those. And if anybody would like some, stop by my real estate office and I'll try to run some more copies off. So again, I'm Bob Lario. I'm the broker owner of ReMax Mountain West Real Estate. We have the office in Paonia. We have an office in Sea Ridge. We also have an office in Carbondale. I'm representing the real estate industry tonight, and so we, as realtors, which is, by the way, a two-syllable word, a lot of people like to say realtors, we're the ones that get to meet you all when you first come here. We meet you the people who have dreams of moving here. We're sort of on the front line of making those acquaintances and introducing the valley. So, there was a time when there was a definite anti-growth sentiment around here, and we saw all these new people wanting to move here with these dreams and these visions of what a cool place this was. And by the way, this is kind of a cool place. I mean, listening to all these speakers tonight, it just really drives that message home. This is a cool place. hasn't always been quite so cool. But, you know, we were the ones who kind of opened the doors and helped people get here. So I wish, after hearing a lot of the things tonight, I don't think we have any county commissioners here tonight.
The county commissioners and county administrator were invited. Unfortunately, they're in Colorado Springs at another meeting, and they sent their address.
It would have been nice to have had some of them here to see, to get a first-hand view of what's going on in the North Fork.
We're sending them the video.
But like I said, it's a cool place. I mean, everybody, you all should buy property here. That's what it comes down to. I've been selling real estate out of Paonia since 1976. It's really changed. Why do people come here? I'll tell you why they don't come here. They don't come here for jobs. People come here for other reasons. And somebody said, I think it was Diana, I think you said there's a lot of money here. Well, people tend to come here who have that aspect in their lives figured out somehow. They're not coming here looking for jobs. They're coming here looking for a lifestyle. They're coming here looking for features. And hopefully I've seen a lot of people come here and not be able to sustain it and have to leave. I've seen people do that and come back. This place has a magnetism to it. But it's not jobs that brings people here. Looking at, so I don't know, those all been passed out. One of the first things we were asked to talk about is the state of the business. So, you know, I'll try to go through this pretty quickly. In the North Fork, if you look at those statistics that I handed out, I have the year-to-date as of November 30th. And I talk a lot about the residential market because really, and if you look at these, you'll see residential is about 75 to 80% of real estate activity in Delaware County. So it's the driving factor in the market. In the North Fork, as of November 30th, 2014, there have been 109 residences sold. Last year at this time it was 86. So that's an increase of 27%. The average selling price went from $199,235 a year ago to $196,577. So it's a slight decrease in average selling price. And if you look at some of the trends, you'll see that, you know, obviously we hit the big boom in 2007, 2008, and then we had the big drop off, and since then it's just kind of coming up. It's very gradual. It seems to be very sustainable. There's still a lot of bank-owned properties out there. There's some short sales still going on. They've decreased quite a bit. Let's see, Heritage Title Company gave us a statistic. Foreclosure filings in Delaware County decreased 15% in the first 3 quarters, from 106 in 2013 to 90 in 2014. Foreclosure completions in the same period went from 110 last year, 49 this year. So that's a good trend. We're seeing lots of good trends. We're seeing steady increases in numbers of properties sold. Average selling price staying about the same. We're seeing still a lot of low-end sales. There's just, you know, $60,000, $70,000 homes still being sold around here. But we are starting to break into the higher ends, reminiscent of 2007, 2008, where we're selling upper-end homes, which in this area is like $300,000 and above. We're starting to sell more ag properties. There was a long period of time where you couldn't get any interest in orchard property, and there were no wineries or vineyards around here. Well, now there's been quite a few orchard sales. We sold one this past summer, 140-acre organic apple orchard in the Hotchkiss area. So we're starting to see that kind of interest coming back. And that tends to drive the market up. We're not where Denver is. I talked to Trish a little while ago. She put a house for sale in Denver and got it sold under contract within hours of hitting the market. And so we're a little bit tempered because we compare ourselves to the Denver area. We hear that. We're not there. That's just a crazy market over there. But we are susceptible to hitting that kind of market. It's a strange market in Delaware County. People come in here looking for a particular area, a particular style home, a particular size of acreage, whatever. And all of a sudden this big array of properties narrows and narrows and narrows. And the selection boils down to a number that can easily be impacted for that particular buyer at that particular time. And all of a sudden it can be a seller's market, just like that, for that buyer. And that's how market gets driven up. And so we have seen some high-end sales, places selling at the high end of their value range, multiple offers, and properties going under contract within maybe days. Let's see. Short sales, bank repos, I talked about that. They're still holding the market down. What's bringing people here, really for the most part, what I'm seeing is agritourism, the coal market. A lot of people ask me now, the coal mine closures and things like that, how's that affecting the real estate market? We had this happen back in the 80s where the coal mines all closed down here, and it was devastating. I have to say the coal market is important to us, but it's not driving the real estate market anymore. And so it seems like we're able to assimilate these coal mine layoffs and closures without a real major effect. It has an effect, but a lot of the coal miners either don't own homes, commute here, or if they lose their jobs here, they keep their homes here and go work elsewhere and keep their families here. And so the homes don't come on the market. The big threat that I've seen and a lot of my fellow realtors have seen is the gas leases close into the valley. The North Fork realtors went on record with a letter to the BLM and the county commissioners, et cetera. About 95% of us in the North Fork strongly opposed the gas leases. We immediately saw the effect of on the real estate market of the leases. And the point that we made was that we didn't even attempt to argue the relative merits or demerits of fracking or what could happen to water or any of that. For the real estate market, it was merely the perception that gas drilling could happen here. That's all it took to get a sizable number of buyers to go onto the sideline and decide not to buy. So our point to the BLM was just announcing leases. That's all it took, and to have an effect on the real estate market that's struggling to recover, and all of a sudden things like that happen. So pay attention to the future with the North Fork alternative and the things that will be happening in the next few months with that. I guess the other thing that I wanted to say, there's a few, let me give you a few more statistics. According to the National Association of Realtors, the average age of a realtor in the United States is 57. And I called our board secretary of the Delaware County Board of Realtors today, and she gave me a figure that 75% of the Delaware County realtors are over 60 years old. So what I want to address real quickly before I leave is a job opportunity. Seriously, I've been selling real estate since I moved here in 1970 and spent 5 years trying to figure out how to support myself because this was paradise for me. And I didn't want to go work in the coal mine, and I tried working on farms. I tried a lot of different things. Finally, kind of blundered upon a real estate license. And it's really worked for me. It's been a great career. And there's a lot of people in real estate that are not going to be very active in this business in the next 5 to 10 years. And there's really room for young people to come in. And I've been really actively looking for some people to come into the business. So if you or you know of anyone that might be interested, send them my way.
Cool.
That's everything, right?
Yep.
So this is a part of the program, and you know, I know it's been long, but it's been pretty interesting, I think. Has it been good for you?
Oh, yeah.
So we want to leave some time for questions and comments and some conversations and Q&A. So I'm going to ask you questions. So given what you've heard tonight, and given what Michelle, thank you Michelle, and we had recorded up here, particularly on TV. So what are some kind of things that we as a community can be doing to keep ourselves moving in driving economy? Will you be doing anything else? What do you think? Yeah.
I think we need to support our school. I would like to see everyone in this room on December 17th at the high school when they talk to Delaware County Administration, talking about the future of the schools in this town. So the other two meetings have not been well received in Milton and Ridge, and I would really like to have that. So I would invite them. Because I do think a vibrant school is very, very important to our community and the future of bringing other people into our community. So I really encourage everybody to go to Paonia High School on December 17th at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
I'm a brand new board member for Citizens for a Healthy Community, and as kind of tagging on to something that Bob said, and looking at all these amazing, beautiful visions and what this valley is, I just want to say that not having gas and oil wells and fracking in our communities is so important. So when the new resource management plan comes out, there will be like a 60-day comment period, and we need people to comment on what that is. We need people to support Citizens for a Healthy Community, who is working very hard to prevent, to protect our valley from irresponsible oil and gas drilling. So.
Thank you.
I think that's really interesting to hear a lot of the kind of energy behind the ideas. But what I'm a little bit concerned by is that a lot of them are really dependent on fossil fuels. Here we talk about, not wanting to develop gas, and I understand that. Yet we are requiring something. A lot of these businesses seem to need heavy vehicle traffic. Between tourism and shipping things to the area to do stuff. And it seems like that was kind of one of Chaco's downfalls. And even Homestead Beef is in Delta, instead of up here anymore, with their processing. And I'm just wondering, it's so nice to kind of think about opportunities, but is it based in reality?
What's the solution?
I don't know.
Public transportation.
Yeah, I know we talked about public transportation, and ability to go to schools. I don't know. Maybe we have to think of different ideas.
I don't know. Local distribution networks for food, for example, will cut down on refrigeration costs so that you can't necessarily stop using fossil fuels. That's just not realistic at this point. But you can ship things for shorter distances.
Just another comment, in terms of tourism with the chamber, we've looked at how do we focus on local markets. We could draw most of the people that we need to support a tourism economy from Aspen and Telluride area without having to increase a lot of fossil fuels. And I think that's just where the idea about strategy and planning comes in is, that little bit of effort that we put in, we really can help lay the groundwork for
I have 2 words. I have a new neighbor: electric bicycles. Yes.
Hi. One of the things that I kind of saw lacking from the conversation was the growing Latino community here in Delta.
Right.
And I think maybe the community should find ways to embrace that and also bring that in part of the image and maybe the identity of the community, because that's going to be here. And so we should use it.
I would say just remember that all of us businesses support each other's businesses and try to collaborate and network with each other. And sometimes I get afraid of competition or even envious on occasion when somebody thinks of a better idea and it works. But I love the Hive because I'm a new member and I want to network with other businesses and share the pie and just be that much more attractive. That's selling Paonia for me as a business person, is selling my local business as well. I don't want it all. I want to work with everybody.
We could use a better healthcare system here. How can we get more doctors to move here?
Yeah.
We could use more doctors here, primary care physicians. It's kind of lacking. Takes 2 weeks to get an appointment. Anyways, that could be something we could look at.
I would like to stress the importance of broadband, since everybody else pointed it, I haven't yet. If we have broadband, I don't know if everybody understands the limiting factor that is for this valley. We would get more doctors if we had broadband, because right now our technology is too slow for them to do their job here. This is what's real. We would get more students to the school if we had broadband, because every week we have about 3 new members sign up to the Hive, and we lose one. And the one we lose is because we don't have broadband. Those people have kids. They have small businesses that employ people. And they're leaving because we don't have broadband. That's the single largest reason people retire. I can go down every single one of those things and almost solve broadband in one shot. The same with fossil fuels and energy. If SEI had broadband, and then we collaborate to come up with some kind of a local community revolving loan structure to put solar on all the houses and businesses, we have a different game. So I vote for broadband.
John, you're in charge of that.
Jake from Region 10, heard his name dropped a couple of times already. I think kind of piggybacking off of the broadband issue is the understanding that we really have to consider a lot of things outside of the North Fork too. Obviously there's a lot of concern about national trends, but we have to kind of break down silos and think about these things in a regional sense. And that's why the broadband project that Region 10 is now facilitating is such a broad partnership between all the 6 different counties within Region 10. And there's more effort and more energy being driven towards funders who want to see regional efforts. They want to see collaboration. So we kind of, the way this presentation went, we're in silos. There's real estate here, there's small business here, there's agriculture here. Funders want to see all those people at the table. So I think that's a really big aspect to actually making things change and having more of these conversations take place on a more frequent basis.
Yeah, and you know, Region 10 is such a real asset to all of the communities within the seven counties? 6 counties that are served. And I've approached people and said the words Region 10 and they don't know. They don't know what it is. They don't know how it's helping. So glad to see you guys up here and
Sorry, I keep kicking your
to see more of that. Great collaboration here.
I do too.
Steve?
I just want to expand on the broadband. I think that since DMEA is a cooperative, I think and this has been one of the best meetings I've ever been to in the Valley. Joanna did a great job. But since DMEA is a cooperative already, and I've been on the board of the Boulder Co-op Market, I think that all of us should be at DMEA meetings saying, let's do the broadband as a cooperative. I don't see any, I think that they're going to have a huge problem being a cooperative. Their responsibilities, their corporate structure is a cooperative. Well, let's keep it a cooperative. That's going to cut through a lot of the friction. I feel that way. Especially if they hear from enough people, let's do it as a cooperative. And the thought of gigabyte speeds throughout the valley, this valley will thrive economically. And so I think it's an important deal. And we have templates. We have Longmont, Colorado. Longmont has always owned its own utility, and it's sort of like a whole cooperative in that way, and they're bringing in a fiber ring, and it's going to make Longmont boom. Chattanooga, Tennessee, that John's familiar with. We have a template that we need to talk to people that are on the DMEA decision-making process. Thank you.
That's one thing, show up at the meetings, show up at the DMEA, show up with planning commissioners, show up and we get stuff done.
If I can, I'm one of the guys that helped Barton Christie when Paonia.com first got started. What I would envision is a full shop computer thing on Main Street, not owned by the town, but cooperatively owned, where you have 16-year-old computer geeks. You can walk in with your computer and get it fixed. I mean, that Paonia.com when it was downtown was a great place.
Yeah.
We need to emulate that throughout the region.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
I want to lay down a challenge for people to stretch a little bit and get more involved. Run for town council. Step up and join a planning commission. Run for county commissioner. Join a ditch board. Join a water board. Because until you really understand how the systems work, you can't really understand why decisions have always been made, and more importantly, you don't know where the pressure points are to try to affect change. So even though I only did it for 6 months, I learned more than I ever thought I would on town council. And it was an amazing experience, but I think that's what we need, is we have a lot of the same people, the same people that always show up to the same meetings. We need new faces.
And young faces.
Yeah.
What's wrong with my face?
Allison, then.
I just want to reiterate or support the woman, I don't know your name, I'm sorry. Say it again?
Cindy.
Hi, Cindy. About the schools, and because right off the bat, I'm sitting here thinking of like 8 families that have left this valley as their kids hit high school. And, I'll say it, broadband would help that. If we could have really high, super quality schools from all the way from elementary all the way through high school, and maybe start getting the technical school actually doing things that, this end of the valley might be, have some classes up at this end of the valley would be great. So that we could keep families around, because I've seen, like I said, without even going back through mental time, 8 families I know of that in the last 2 years have left because as their kids hit high school.
Thanks. Super. I don't know if you know what my battle's been for the last 3 years, but as a resident of the North Fork for 30 plus years and a veterinarian who's served the community for more than 30 years, I'm faced with losing my investment and my life's work, because you have a group of county commissioners who think that corporate ag is the way this county needs to go. And when you have the west end of the valley that thinks row croppers are the wonderful way to go and they're supported by Farm Bureau, and yet you have this wonderful collective group of people who understand sustainable ag, all I can say is if I lose my trespass case and I lose my case that's going to the Supreme Court, you're going to see a more imminent threat than oil and gas in this county, because you're going to see pig farms, you're going to see corporate ag move in here because we don't have zoning. And as a member of the Fire Mountain Ditch Board, as a member, or used to be a member of the Delta Conservation District, as a member of the Colorado Association of Conservation Districts, I'm watching a political massing of a statewide attitude that corporate ag is the way to save our economy. And you've got the Cattlemen's Association right there, you've got Farm Bureau, you've got a political system with lobbyists who are pushing for corporate ag. You've got Monsanto, DuPont, all of these
corporations supporting Farm Bureau. They are the second largest lobbyists in the country. They are more of an imminent threat. And I'm going to tell you this because I'm fighting for everything I've worked for. My family farm has been in my family for 50 years. They are now coming after me saying it is their right to farm next to me. They built a 15,000 hen laying operation within 900 feet of my farm and my veterinary practice. It's damn near put me out of business. Okay, so I love this community. I love all of your great ideas, but we've got to stop this Pollyanna idea that we're going to fight all this on our own. It will take a cooperative effort with the west end of the valley, with everybody you know, to stand up against oil and gas, because I'm going to say it right now, you've got the cattlemen who want it because they have in-holdings and they will make the money from this. You've got state legislators who want it because they think it's the, how do I want to say this? You know, it's going to create jobs. There's this default assumption that it's going to create jobs. But, you know, I don't want to see any of you have to go through what I've gone through in the last 3 years. I'm facing lung issues. My animals were sick. My patients were sick. 22 health complaints in my neighborhood. And you have a set of county commissioners who just totally ignored it.
Thanks, Susan. And just summarize it by get
involved. Get involved.
Get on it. Get
Pay
involved.
attention. We need better elected officials.
No, I just raised my hand and I said I second what
you're
Sarah says. That it's really important, and what Susan just said, to get involved. Young people, get on your planning commission.
And Mary's a great example in Hotchkiss getting involved in the Hotchkiss community. Ed?
Yeah, I would like to second Susan in a slightly different way. I think that the resistance to broadband by DMEA, by a strong minority on the DMEA board, can only be understood in terms of resistance to the demographic and economic changes that they could see coming if there's broadband. So it's coming out of the same people that have inflicted the chicken thing on Susan Raymond. And if that sounds paranoid, I would just pull rank and say I've been here for 40 years. And it's not paranoia. It's the politics of the resistance to broadband. Otherwise, there's no other way to explain DMEA's split today. And you have to understand that it's all part of the big picture. And unless we are willing to go to the meetings, it's just not going to work by magic. It's going to be it's going to be trench warfare, and it's going to go on for a long time. No one's applauding. I don't know why.
Anybody else? Any other thoughts, ideas?
I just have a question about marketing or like general branding for Paonia and getting our name out there, stretching further. As far as, is there any of that going on? You know, Telluride has a logo, Aspen has a logo almost. It's just like a branding, just so that we can get Paonia.
Join the chamber.
Yeah.
The chamber is a member-run organization. It's a 501c6, and coming out of our implementation grant with Heart and Soul, we have $6,000 to implement a strategy with the Hotchkiss Chamber and create a district next year on destination marketing, and we would love some input and some new ideas on what that looks like, and invite you to participate.
Yeah, I can say that the branding and marketing issue is something that comes up all the time. It's very piecemeal, and we, with the chambers, have had some efforts to try and get a bigger bang, and I think some of our local businesses, Jeff's business, that has the North Fork label, has it on there, and helps to tell our story. I remember pulling into Delta one day, and I see this big truck going down Highway 50 with Big B's Juice, North Fork Valley, beautiful, you know, apples and peaches up on the side of the truck. What better marketing was that? And we are gaining, thanks to people like Deva, who have entertained many writers and food critics and travel people. The publicity has been very good. It's slow, it's stepwise, it's not a great big, you know, huge campaign. But the chambers are very much invested in it. Thank you. Kris?
Yeah, tagging onto that, I'm really looking forward to help market and brand the North Fork Valley along with the other companies that are already doing that. Obviously, SEI is doing a great job. And with Data and other people like that, just to really have a cohesive message. Because that, I think, and we've learned that before in past kind of like gatherings, is that, you know, it's fragmented. So the way to brand something is really to have a clear, concise message that's consistent to the consumers. And this is a no-brainer to me to sell Paonia in the North Fork Valley. Because there's so many great things here. Look at the board, you know. So including the food, which I'm a big proponent of, more farmers and more agriculture, keeping the community the way people want it, with a healthy environment, a healthy economy. We can do all those things here. Absolutely.
And you know, I think a big part of the branding is us. There's a lot of things up here that are, you know, it's a challenge for us to do things. And if you're telling your 10 friends, if you're out on Facebook, and if you're out and telling the story and inviting people to come and enjoy our festivals and our you know, some of the new and exciting things that are happening, that goes very, very far. That really, really helps. Carolyn?
I'm working to make the North Fork Valley a destination for weddings, and it would bring a lot of money into this area. There's so many vendors here that provide those kind of services. And I work on a website, and I hear, you know, I look at what SEI has just done, I'm thinking, if I have to reinvent the wheel, I can't just steal what they've done. And you know what you're saying, and we all, and about this branding, and it's something that the Hive is very interested in. And working with the chamber, it just takes, again, the involvement. Who's going to step up to be on the chamber board? And who's going to step up to say, yeah, I'm going to put some time and energy into this because it's going to benefit me and it's going to benefit every person here. And how much can we do without burning ourselves out, and most of us have to make a living? I think we can do that.
Anything else? Anybody have any questions for specific questions for the people that have presented tonight that you just, before you get out of your chair, you need to have answered?
I have a question. So I want to know maybe businesses that try to, industries, maybe small or large, and try to move themselves here in the last, I don't know, year or two, and who do they contact usually first? The commissioners, economic development, the chambers? I'm just curious about that process. And I really feel like we need to court more industry here. And also, you know, is there something we can do on this side as being brainchilds and our expertise? Collectively, what is our expertise here? What are all the different things that the diverse professional backgrounds that people have that can support these industries that want to come here? And broadband, and if we don't get this, no one's going to come here. But again, everything keeps turning to that. But I just want, I'm curious if we've had a lot of people come and who they contact first, and if we can make that happen.
So, did you guys hear Andrea's question? So when businesses do come here, who do they contact? Where do they go? What's the best directions for them? I'm going to turn that over to Kris Faison. That's your situation.
Get a membership to the Hive, number one. Because honestly, this is the place where a lot of people come to do work. Congratulations on your award. That have so many connections, and I've given connections myself, even being a new person, I'm able to help people out. And the town. So Neal and other folks on the town staff have been enormously helpful in bringing and kind of helping to bring businesses over. Obviously, what Neal talked about and what Kris is doing. So if I was going to pick two big things, those would be that.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
The Hive owes most of the credit, I think, to organizations that are already standing in this room. We've managed to become a hub for them, but honestly, Neal and the town have been amazingly helpful, not just to us, but for all of the members. Alexis and the chamber have gone out of their way to do literally anything they can. There's always the question, what can we do to help? Vince and Jay were my first contacts with Region 10, and some of the stuff, the equipment in the Hive is funded by them. They offered, we didn't ask. We don't even think applied ever. You just gave it to us because you're awesome. DCED is participating now, and we actually have collaborative marketing. You'll see our flyers, and on our flyers now for all of our workshops, you see the Hive, Region 10, and DCED. So what has happened is our mission has been achieved. It's collaborative. Although the Hive is for-profit technically, we welcome everybody and we give as much as we can. So, you know, I don't want to steal all the thunder and say, oh, everybody calls the Hive. Well, they do when they're coming here. But we usually consider their question and then point them to other community resources because this place is amazing. People just sometimes don't know who to call. And the Hive happens to have a pretty high aptitude for marketing. And so we attract those calls. But we couldn't do anything without all the organizations in the town that I just named.
I would say throughout the county, there's not a good coordinated effort of, okay, Alexis, who's gone to you, who's come to us, who's gone to Hotchkiss, who's gone to the county, who's gone to Region 10, and so there isn't an answer for that, but I think people are, and then we're referring to each other too, and so it's that coordinated effort.
Well, sometimes people arrive and they feel like they're just totally on their own.
Yeah.
And they start, and I've seen this over and over, that they start thinking of things like, well, if Paonia only had this, well, they don't know that 12 other people are already doing that, and so they assume it's a new thing. And I think we make those assumptions about some of our institutions as well. You know, so who's doing marketing? Well, yeah, the chamber's in it, so hey, join in there. There's strength in numbers. Go to the town meetings. I know they can be painful, but it's a way to get to know and a way to network. And there is so much in this room and in this community. There is just so much here. So many talents, so many skills, so many things to offer, and people are offering. People are putting their hand up. People are ready, and I think this community is ready. And look around the room, see where the skills are, see how we can help each other. And most of the things that you all talk about and listed up here is about talking to each other, about working with each other, about getting involved. And if that's all we have to do, that's not very hard, is it? Could we do these things? Probably. North Korea does broadband better than we do. Jeez, come on! Do these things. And it's up to us. We're the ones we've been waiting for.
South Korea.
North Korea's got better broadband.
We're looking forward to a good, peaceful unification of the country.
So thank you all for coming.